I'm just gonna lay it out. This is a no sad zone. This is the birthday super special. This man's got cake. This man's got adulation. We're here to celebrate, not be sad about music. God damn it. Do they make over the hill signs for 30 yet, or is that just a 40 thing? Because I probably should have brought
just a 40.
Okay, I should have brought like a card or something. I actually don't have a gift, so maybe I shouldn't have acknowledged the fact that this even exists in the first place.
I think 30 is like nowadays is a very specific time, but it's from Zoomer to Boomer, right?
Yeah, I think you've crossed over like the line officially. Like you're
so somehow like that despite that's not how age groups work. Somehow I have managed to jump from one to the other because that's just how 20 to 30 works somehow.
You woke up earlier this week and you're like, wow, I think I have osteoporosis, glaucoma. I don't know what TikTok is anymore, and I'm probably racist. Like that's just what happens when you get old, right? Like so.
I saw a meme and it made me irrationally angry. I saw like an Onion article and I totally fell for it. I was just like, Joe Biden said what? It was just fucking. It all just hit me all at once.
Congratulations on making it to the other side.
Thank you.
You did it. Happy birthday.
I did it.
There's a physical other side too for people who are watching, the YouTube version, because I'm almost certain, and I'm definitely cheating because I'm in your apartment, but I'm almost certain that the perspective on this camera has been turned around 180. I think I'm looking at the opposite wall. Like, where's the map? Yes. What's this new art that I'm looking at?
Exactly. Yeah. No, you're right. The map is right over there. And now you've got new artwork. Yes, I changed spots because for my birthday, Ellie got me a new desk. It's one of those standing desk dealios. And so yeah, I changed. It's bigger than my old desk as well, so I needed to change the layup so we could have more space in our living room. Because otherwise it doesn't quite work. But
have you used the standing up function yet?
Yes, multiple times. I've actually taken to we'll actually talk a little bit about Dota somewhat early here, somewhat tangentially related to Dota, but Grant being out of the Dota scene has left an open market for casting pubs, casters who follow high level pubs. And I don't really know a whole lot of people who are doing that. Especially like I see Trent or Lyrical like occasionally do it or something like that, but not like really consistently. So I've decided to. It's kind of weird. Like I don't want to say like take up that mantle or anything because I'm not trying to take that same space that Grant was doing, but
you could.
It's like I can't really.
Terms. There's a market hole, and you are capitalizing on an available market.
That's the thing is I don't want to make it sound too business-like. It's more like it's purely the fact that like I can't cast like if I see an interesting match now, I can't just cast it on my channel anymore. That I can't really do that. And I'm not like I had some negotiations fall through for an upcoming event, so I'm not going to be doing that event. And I may not be doing like any more events for the rest of the year. And I'm like, oh man, my schedule is like really open. I want to cast something. I can't really cast matches that are going on. Like what I used to do like the boys, the goons, like where I just like had an open Discord and random Dota people would come in and hang out. And that was actually, I thought it was a kind of a cool idea and it was a nice alternate stream. And I think that I could have made that a lot bigger if like I didn't get hired for certain events. Like I could put more effort into that and to make that a bigger product. Right. And but now I can't do that anymore. So now I still want to cast something. And so but it feels like it's obviously like I want to do something that's also beneficial to my stream because I don't really do a whole lot in that regard. So I've started casting pubs. I just put out a Twitter poll. I was like, I actually thought I was going to be doing replay casts. I was like, I thought there would be a market for me covering Southeast Asia and Chinese matches on Western times, I like that for me sounds very clear, but for whatever reason, it seems like esports people are just not that interested if the outcome is already determined. They want that live content because live content is available all the time. So it feels like if you're not watching something live, what the fuck is the point? So I put out a Twitter poll and nobody was interested in that. More people were interested in twice as many, if not more, were interested in casting high level pubs. So
that is that's
just
what
doing what the people want.
That's what I voted for. That's what I voted for in this option. That I didn't have a horse in the race. I was like, which one would I watch more? I'll probably watch none of these. Probably high level pubs. So I'm glad to really skew and ruin your data because I've yet to really fully tune in. But that is the request that I put on the docket. Are you doing most of those? Well, did you tie this in the standing desk? Because are you doing those standing? Are you like standing up and doing DOTA casting?
Casting sitting down is just kind of weird. I mean, the way I cast the pubs is not like I'm not doing it like super professionally, and I'm not like putting in real hype, a whole lot of hype to it. So I can do it sitting down. But honestly, it's way more natural. The more hype I get, the more natural it is to be standing up. And I figure it's like healthier. So I've just been like, whenever I do some casting in the morning sometimes. So I'll do like 2 to 4 hours of casting some pubs and just watching some matches go on. And I'll just do that standing up and no camera. I can't cast with the camera. I'm too self-conscious about, I remember the water bottle incident. Like shit like that happens all the time. It's just the camera's usually not there to catch it.
I think the water bottle incident was a net positive though. So maybe you got to be particular about what you do show people, right?
Absolutely.
I like doing the podcast standing up. I feel like you just kind of have a different energy when you're on your feet talking. I think it's more natural. I think that's why a lot of times, stand-up comedy is stand-up comedy, right? Not sit-down comedy.
Are you trying to say I should stand up for this? Hold up. We're going up. Going up.
I'm getting an even different perspective now. This is a live.
Yes. There you go.
See now you're just taller.
The view has changed.
Yeah, I like standing up. I like having a standing desk. I'm happy that you can come to the standing desk live. I think it's like a real cult thing, but like it's an okay cult thing. Yeah. Like some people are like CrossFit or Republicans. Like those are what I think are unacceptable cults. But acceptable cults are the standing desk people. Big. That might just be because I am one.
I thought you were going to go down the whole health line, like, CrossFit, like those guys brag about CrossFit all the time, or the guys who preach about keto, you got to get on this keto diet, dog, Paleo. and then the fucking standing desk people.
They're all the same health kick, right? Like they're just all
they really are.
Good body circulation.
There's something, there's something that they enjoy, but it also happens to be healthy, so it gives them every right to like really preach about it to people.
Are you doing a lot of this cast? Because I've seen you mostly because I follow you on Twitch, so I get notifications. Thank you very much. But also Discord, it says when you're streaming, right? So I see like just a lot more streams recently. Are you doing the casting by yourself? Is there random people you're hanging out with and doing it with, or you're just?
No, it's just me. I might add people in the future if like the thing is that my stream has actually not been doing very well. So casting wise, it'll go up to like 300-400, but like not enough that like I feel other people would be interested in being on my stream so much. Like when I was doing when I was doing the alternate stream, like I just decided, I'm gonna cast this, and then I had enough people there that I think it drew in more people, sort of deal. Yeah. I haven't got my way to ask. And to be honest, like I feel like this is going to mostly be a solo casting thing anyway, where it's more about me, like, casting the games and stuff, but also like actually interacting with chat for once, because that's something I'm terrible at doing and why my stream is kind of dog shit. Because when I play Dota, I can't do anything else but play Dota.
How much of a different muscle is that from like a work or a casting perspective when you're sitting there by yourself doing these games for, either having a co-caster online? I mean, it's definitely different than being at an event or being on a panel, right? But what's different about the solo cast for you?
Solo casting, so that is a different entertainment muscle for sure, and something that I'm not very good at. I had a lot of practice doing it at Join Dota, But I'm much more a conversational person, which is why this podcast works well. But like when it comes to me doing solo stuff, I'm not really a solo entertainer. You know, I bounce off of people really well. If you forced me to be a comedian, I would have to be in a duo act or something. I couldn't do it stand up alone. I'd be fucking terrible. I'm just not really much of a solo entertainer. So it is a different muscle. So that's why it's awkward compared to like Grant, because Grant was like an S tier entertainer. And I know like I'm not like trying to exactly fit in exactly what he was doing, because I would never be as good at what he did. But like it seems to be what people want and stuff. So yeah.
It's incredibly hard. I kind of empathize with your sentiment of like, oh, it's easier to have someone else to have a conversation with or talk to or to bounce off of or to give space in a conversation, right? Because whether it be a podcast or a shoutcast or a game cast, which I think we don't call shoutcast anymore, I don't know. Like just for me, my brain works better when I have a moment to think about like what's coming up. But a lot of times people who are just pure solo entertainers are so incredibly good at being on all the time, and they don't need that little break, or they just push through all of the bullshit. And sometimes, you know, you can do it, I can do it, not to put us even close to the same level, but like just like talk when you need to fill air ad nauseum. You just keep going and you just find a way to do it. That's definitely like a muscle, right? But to be able to do that well, like, you know, Graham was able to do, but or even when you look at solo casting or people who can really carry things by themselves, I think is super admirable, because you know, to have another person is just to like have a crutch or a buddy. I think that's why you see a lot of like popular media, be it podcasts or any type of commentary, like it allows for that relationship or that break. And I think it's also more interesting when you can kind of bounce between different people from an audience perspective, because like now suddenly there's two different humans that you can care about, where if you're one person doing a cast, if someone doesn't care about whatever you're doing at any given time, you don't have the other person to be like, oh, well, fuck, someone's listening to Side Poll. I don't care when Joey opens his mouth. But, you know, I like when Cap does. Like, you don't have that luxury when you're by yourself.
Yeah. I think the same problem I have with solo casting is the same problem that I have when it comes to creativity. So, like, I think it helps a lot. So I can talk ad nauseum about Dota if I'm solo casting Dota, but it's not going to be that funny. It's not going to be like the most entertaining thing. If there's hype stuff happening, I'm going to be able to hype that up. I'll be able to break down the game, but like I'm not going to be the most interesting person to listen to, and I'm definitely not going to be that funny. And I think being funny in a solo broadcast is amazing. I think that is incredibly good. For solo casters, right? And I think the reason I'm not very funny solo is the same reason I have creativity issues by myself, which is that I am not an idea maker, okay? When I work in a group, I'm not the person who comes up with the initial idea. I'm great at being able to take other people's ideas and fit them and alter them to make them even better, you know? But I'm not going to be the guy who comes up with the original. I'm not, you know, they have those creativity brainstorms. Whenever I'm in those, I'm like, I've got one idea max. And it's not going to be a golden ticket idea. It's not going to be one of those ideas that everybody locks onto that's like, oh, that's fucking great. That's fucking great. Here's what we could do with this, you know? It's not that. So like, I think it's the same thing. Like when I'm in a conversation, I'm good at being able to bounce off of other people's ideas and make them better. And so I can be funny that way, but solo casting, I think if you really want to be a great solo caster, you just have to be like part stand-up comedian almost, you know?
Yeah, and also just that level of confidence that you need to exude too. Like they're definitely, you have to believe in yourself extra, because you don't have someone else to be like, not put blame on necessarily, but just to work with. If you're by yourself, it is only you, right? So
yeah, Slacks is another good example of like a solo entertainer, because he's also like an idea fucking magnet, dude. That guy just comes up with shit all the time. He just does not seem to stop. It's amazing, all the shit that he comes up with. And like honestly, there's 10% of it that is like bad. Maybe another 20% that's like, it's kind of funny, But honestly, that guy, 70% of the ideas that he puts out, there's something very funny about what he comes up with. You know, maybe it needs to be perfected a little bit, but like that dude has actually perfected his craft to a point where it feels like he very rarely misses.
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with that right now in like work and like outside of the show environment, where I think in the last couple of months I've personally been put in a position to like be the idea person and be like, hey, just like what are we gonna do? What are we gonna write? What's like the nugget, the log line of this thing? And while I'm pretty confident in my ability to do that, I think that I'm like naturally a little bit more creative, and like I have some inkling of what I should be doing in that regard and can come up with like funny or good ideas. I'm now worried that like I need more people to tell me no, or because like I don't fully believe in everything that I'm either pitching or saying, and I need someone to either be like, yeah, that is bad, and confirm my thought, or like try and make it better instead of just trying to. Yeah. I don't want to be the Slacks person. I think I can kind of exist in a world like between you and Slacks on these archetypes, where I'm like somewhere vaguely in the middle where I can kind of wear both hats. But I don't like when I'm supposed to be the person who is the Slacks in this scenario, where it's like, hey, so what's the idea? Or can you vomit more ideas? It's like, no, like some people have the gift for that, and sometimes I have good ideas. But like the creation process for me is like very sporadic. It's like, oh, I take a long shower, and then in the middle of the shower, I just have like a brain blast. I'm like, oh, that's funny. Let me write that down. Or, you know, I'm going on a run, and then like I'm trying to think through something, and then oh, okay, like that's something that we can, you know, convert on. But just to be able to walk up and be like, here's 30 ideas on the top of my brain, maybe 10 of them are bad, but the other 20 are viable, is a skill. And that's why I think that Slack's type of personality is like hyper rare, because there aren't people who are consistently good at doing that, and it's such a skill when you're able to.
And then even better, like if you talk about the production line, right? There's like usually 3 main roles. People come up with the ideas, people make those ideas better, and then the people who actually make those ideas happen and turn them into reality. And Slacks is actually good at 1 and 3, you know? Yeah. Because he actually executes very, very well, and he's super good at producing content. So, yeah. Slacks is a fucking gem, and I don't know if I said this before, but I really think that like him going full time into streaming might actually be really good for Dota.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least,
he actually blows up as a streamer,
but also for Dota. Yeah, I think there's a world where Slacks can be just as famous as a Shroud or a Pokimane in my eyes, in the Twitch sphere. Yeah. Not for exactly the same reasons, but for tangential ones. Dude. Yeah, I think we all recognize that he special in a very fun way, which is cool, you know. And
it's also really good we got Rich into Dota, into like the Dota atmosphere, because you know, maybe he's been blatantly lying, but he says he really loves working with all of us in Dota, and I feel like he's actually like a mainstream connection for people into Dota, because his stream's big. Obviously, he's connected with like Asmongold, but he's also like connected to Call of Duty. He's like one of the mainstream esports people. Like Dota 2, even OD Pixel, he's not a mainstream esports personality because Dota is so fucking isolated from everybody else, you know? Like in some ways, when it comes to the esports industry, the people working Overwatch League are more known within an esports industry and esports people than OD Pixel is, you know, because Dota's off on an island. It's so weird because, you know, like for obvious, like Overwatch League Overwatch isn't a tier 1 esport. The talent they have there that they very often have like pulled in from other esports, but like even their homegrown talent, very likely in some ways they're more popular. Maybe like social media numbers don't quite reflect that, but within the industry itself, they're like known. You know,
yeah, you know everyone who's on those broadcasts, and if you're so foreign to Dota, you don't know anyone. And if you know anyone, you might know Owen, maybe.
Yeah. And before, like the only person you knew was probably Toby.
Exactly. That's what I was just gonna say. Like you might know Toby, or you might know like, hey, did that guy have an article written about him? Like that's the extent of it. So Jake can be a bridge. Rich is a good bridge. maybe if Machine was more into Dota or like in and around the space, he could have also been a bridge. I know that he's definitely, blossomed and been
Red
a part
Eye
of
was a bridge.
basically every scene.
Our bridges got burned, man.
Fuck!
We lost some of our connections to mainstream esports. Rich is full-time streaming now. I'm sure he'll come back to hosting at some point, but I know he's very focused on that. He just announced his whole new organization and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I saw that. I was happy for him.
yeah.
Stuff's good. Stuff's happening. Are you trying to just not grind? Grind is like a negative connotation, but is it just trying to be like an everyday streaming thing at this point, or like what's your thought process on it?
It's weird. Like I put more effort into my stream lately, and like streaming's such a weird thing because the numbers have actually gone down the more effort I put into it this month, but it just fluctuates, right? It's like just depends on how consistent I am, what time I'm streaming. Like I've been streaming earlier, which I know for me, streaming later is typically better because there's just less people, less competition. So the more the main streamers, especially NA people, because many of the NA people are my friends and stuff. So once they go off, like maybe they host me and stuff. So like if I streamed like until 3 a.m. every night, I know my numbers would be a lot better, but it just doesn't quite fit my lifestyle. But I am trying to put more effort into it. So I'm actually like trying to build out my Discord, stuff like that. It's stuff that I never really wanted to be a streamer because I just don't think I'm that kind of person. But I do know like all this talk of like Dota 2 instability and stuff like that. Like I do need to build up my brand in ways that are bigger than working tournaments and Twitter, my Twitter social media.
Yeah.
That's like the fucking jewel I have in like my branding offering is my Twitter social media numbers. And it's not even that good compared to like COD people or something like that. Call of Duty has huge social media, especially Twitter numbers.
I always get blown away when I see that stuff. I'm like, wait, they have 700,000 people following them? And then I remember like, yeah, there's like whole communities there where Twitter, I feel like Twitter for Dota is like pretty insular. Like all of us kind of follow each other and we know who each other are. And there's people who are like more or less active, but it doesn't like again, kind of like there's not a lot of bridges to the rest of the world where we're on that island, right? So there's not like casual esports people who are following us, like people who are following other teams or other games, which is.
Whenever I get followed by someone famous, I always know that person actually plays Dota. So if it's an esports person, like I know that person follows me because, they play Dota. So I've like Overwatch League pro players, like sometimes they'll follow me, or like CSGO guys, very common because they actually have they play Dota in some form. So therefore they maybe watch some Dota. Therefore they kind of know who I am. I never see anybody follow me that's just like, I don't know your game at all, but I just like follow you or anything like that. They're like, that never happens. Not with Dota. And yeah, our social media numbers are kind of weird because like Southeast Asia, Facebook is the most important thing for Western culture. Like for Western culture, it's very often Twitter. That's the big thing. China, obviously, we have no connection to. CIS, it's VK. So it's like even the social media numbers are all fucking split apart and weird and shit. And
our three biggest Dota markets, right? Like SEA, China, and CIS, they're just not on Twitter.
Yeah, they're just not.
So. Who knows? Maybe it's the Dota Capitalist Facebook page. That's really actually what you need to milk those SEA numbers.
I tried Omega League. I actually put a lot of effort into it. I actually I was taking like all the big Twitch clips and stuff, and like making my own Twitch clips at times to be able to pump them out faster and stuff. I honestly I can't stand that I'm talking about this. I like it's just not the position I want to be in. Like, it's not who I want to. I don't want to have to like pander to those ideas. But in order to survive in this industry, I do have to. I don't want to try and be somebody who can be a full-time streamer. But in order to increase my my position when it comes to negotiating for talent rates, or for like even just having the independence of being like, fuck it, I'm not going to work any events for the next 3 months. Like, I need another source of income that is better than what I currently have. So it's like, okay, if I'm really serious about, if I want to have the option of being an esports commentator 10 years down the line, I do need to make it so my Twitch numbers are better and my social media numbers. But again, I hate that my job relies on that. I just want to be a sports commentator, you know, and like have that traditional infrastructure that allows me to be able to, through the work that I put in, be able to more naturally grow without having to, you know, try and do these other things so much. And yeah, of course, like those guys are still good at that, but it feels like there's because there's more infrastructure to it, you're not as reliant on those things, right?
And it feels like in the modern world we live in too, and kind of the internet space we occupy, you have to be multifaceted that way. Like you can't, there are some people who are, you know, dime a dozen gems, right? Who can get by just being the best casters in the world, right? Like, you know, for a while.
Owen could do that. Owen can do that.
Owen can do that. Right. For a while, like anyone would hire Wheat for anything esports related because he's Wheat. Yep. You know, like there's a couple people who can like fill these roles who don't need anything like that. But everyone else, it's like, yeah, I'm a commentator, but I'm also a streamer, and I also have a Twitter presence. I also like do this, that, and the other thing. And it's I think that so many people want to either be streamers or YouTubers or, you know, you go to like classrooms and you have all these kids talk about, you know, like, oh, I want to be like a TikTok star. And that's like more popular nowadays than like a celebrity or a firefighter, because that is their celebrities, right? And I think there's something like really raw and real with your honesty about like, hey, like I realize I'm in this position where like I should do this and like I'm privileged enough to like be in this position, but I don't really want to, because so many people do want to. And like I think the honesty like around like your own
I'm 30 years old, man. Like I don't want to have to get on a webcam and floss so I could get 50 extra subs. Like obviously that's not really what I would do to like grow my brand, but like that is in the same landscape of like, how do you appeal to followers? How do you get more viewers to come in? And it's just, it all feels icky to me. I don't like it.
Especially because like, I'm sure that you can walk away from that stream and just realize like you're really good at your job and you're better than a lot of people. So like you do have the skill to do that. And I think in a more just or fair world, if you wouldn't really have to do any of that if you didn't want to. And the pressure that you might have to do it or you feel like you have to do it, kind of the shitty part here.
Yeah, but yeah, esports is what it is. We all know that like it's not a very solid landscape, and while I have been very resistant to it, like I'm trying to keep as many options available as possible, you know, because yes, I know I could have back end options available to me. I could have industry options available to me of like working for TOs. Like I was having this talk with Jenkins and stuff. It's like esports is like a growing industry, so they're always in need of competent people, not necessarily people who have like a ton of experience, but people that they know are like good hard workers. They just need competent people, because there's a lot of people that are incompetent, because it's an industry very much like it, because it's a passion industry, as it draws a lot of people who are just a passionate, like, how do I get a job in esports? I'm very passionate about it. You know, it's like when that's like your only real goal, like that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be actually good at your job. Joey's like nodding quite a lot as somebody who works in the industry. How has that been, by the way? Like going from more traditional media into esports, do you feel like that is the case, that there are more people that are like
it's,
you know, have gone from the volunteer to paid position but don't really have like skills and things like that? Because I've encountered that a lot on my side of the deal. But then again, talent manager is just a throwaway position for many tournament organizers. I'll be honest with that.
Yeah, I mean, without throwing people that I work with under the bus, I think that there are a lot of people, most organizations, be it the tournament side or the team side, or probably not the dev side, but just people who have kind of grown up in the industry and like have learned a lot of skills on the job through a lot of time. And that doesn't always mean that like they're great, but they're still actively learning, right? So I think that there is like when you're hiring for a TV show, you're not working at a big company. Liquid, like I'm working at Liquid. Liquid has a lot of employees. In any company with a lot of employees, like there's variation in like different skill levels, right? When you're hiring for a more traditional production or a TV show and you have the budget to do it properly, you're just hiring people more or less are hyper competent. And sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes you get like an editor who's not very good. Oftentimes they don't last very long. Sometimes you get someone who's like, you know, weird around the office or a bad intern and like, okay, like whatever, right? But I think seeing that esports is a passion industry, and I mean, I worked StarCraft tournaments when I was 18. Like, I mean, I've been on that side of it, not getting paid because I'm like, dude, I really like StarCraft. Like, this is cool. Can I do something to help? But you see more and more people, and it definitely it's a shift, and it's interesting. And I don't think that I could be working in esports if I wasn't working for an organization like Liquid that, put simply, like has the investment capital to more or less hire people who are very competent across the board and good at their job and experienced, right? Like, I think that I would personally either be struggling a lot more or way more stressed if I was working for, I mean, I don't want to throw another team under the bus, but like name something small, like a Misfits or like a Overwatch team that isn't owned by another big organization. Basically, anything that isn't like Cloud9, G2, TSM, like anything that isn't the Genji, anything that isn't them, I think that I would really struggle with. And even then, Liquid does feel kind of like a cut above in terms of like investment, talent, and structure, which is lucky. But that also creates like a weird mentality of, if I want to continue to, you know, go down this path that I'm currently on, I feel like I'm already kind of at the top in terms of organizations. Like, there aren't other places to really jump to, which again, super lucky, super happy. And like, I think I deserve to be where I am too. I don't want to say that's all luck. It's a lot of luck, but it makes me look at other places that have the problems you're talking about and be like, I don't think I can ever work there. Like, even though I want to, you know, love esports and I want to, you know, help it grow and be in the like a good, competent position, it seems hard because there's just a lot of people like the talent managers you're talking about are just people who are well intentioned, but I think esports is in a spot where there's people who are well-intentioned and then people who are trying to like push the industry into, you know, what could be the NFL in 10 more years, right? And there's just a difference in base. Yeah, this makes me sound so fucking condescending. There's just like a difference in base skill level or like experience in different jobs between or skill sets.
No, for sure. I mean, like there's so many people who like go. There are a lot of people who think to themselves like they want to get a job in esports, but they don't actually have like a specialization to actually. They're just like, I just want to get in esports, you know, but they don't actually have like, oh, I want to be like a project manager. Let me be a project manager in some other industry or something and work my way into esports. They just try and go there direct through esports first. There's a lot of things like, okay, it's a new industry, it's a growing industry, so there are a lot of people who like were just passionate about esports 10 years ago, got in, and then like honestly have been going up because of seniority more so than anything else, right? But yeah, they've experienced things and like, yeah, they've definitely gotten their hands to be able to learn a lot of different things, but it just, they were always getting promoted, not necessarily because they were an amazing worker or they were a step above the rest, but mostly because, okay, things are growing, you take your junior guy, you make him a senior guy, and then you hire somebody else. And then on top of that, there is like people want to talk about like networking and nepotism in esports. There is a level of that, no doubt. Again, because it's esports, like probably doesn't have the same professional standards, especially, maybe it's better now, but like especially 5-10 years ago, again, that like, okay, hey, I know a guy, you know, it's like you get your friends in, stuff like that. And so there's just like, I think there's like several different like major reasons why that sort of thing can happen. But
you also have to remember that, you know, you and me are young, all things considered, even though we're joking about you being 30 now, right? Like, all things considered,
yeah.
We're young. All things considered, esports, incredibly young. Even though like it's been 15 years, maybe, if you want to be generous, right? Like, incredibly young. When there's people working, in NASCAR or the NBA or traditional production, these industries and these networks have been around in like world or countrywide for much longer, and they have more money. And there's just like a bunch of different reasons I think like compound this factor, which makes these sports so interesting. But most of all, it just feels like that we're so young, which is great for people who want to get in it now, because you don't need to be the best person in the world at your specific job in order to get in. And I think sometimes that's really cool, right? Like, you can get your foot in the door easier than just calling up the NFL and being like, hey, I'm really passionate about football. Like, that doesn't happen, right? But that does happen here in the world that we work. And we shouldn't discount anyone who just works off a passion. Bad. There's people who are. I don't think either of us are saying that, to be perfectly clear.
No.
But it allows people who that opportunity, which they might not have. But not everyone who comes to the table with just like good intentions always winds up. I'm a big believer in.
Yeah, sometimes that passion drives people to be even better employees than there would be, right? Because their job is also their hobby, which is you talk about overworking and shit like that. That's another conversation. But like you just are so hungry and happy to be working in the area that you are with the people that you are, who are all of like-minded. That you become maybe an exponentially better employee. There are definitely upsides, but there are the negatives that come with like, sometimes you just hire incompetent people. So, but so the whole point of that was that I know like I could get a job in the backside of the industry, right? But like how, like, I don't know what my position, like being a commentator and being around production, like things like that, like how far that will carry me up the proverbial ladder. I don't want to like 5 years from now, I'm 35 and I'm like, I talked to one of my contacts in the industry and they're like, yeah, we can get you an entry level position. That'll just hurt.
Yeah, because you'll be
that'll just, I've invested all this time for nothing, And so, there are some times that I think about, like, I just recently had this conversation with somebody who was kind of offering me a position, and he was sort of asking me like, okay, like, what is your goal commentating wise? Like, how much longer are you going to be doing this? Because, like, if you want to jump onto this side of things, like, I need to know how all in you're doing it. Right. And so that thought is always in the back of my mind of like, yeah, I'd be a step down right now, but like 10 years from now, maybe in the proverbial ladder, like I don't care about getting to the top ladder or anything like that, but I do want to be in a position where it at least reflects the amount of work I've put in.
You're happy being 7K MMR. You don't need to be 11K, right? Like you're happy.
Yeah, I don't need that.
You're happy good. Being 99th percentile, right? Like you don't.
Just put me in the super rich. Like tax me extra. I don't care. I don't need to be a millionaire, but like half a millionaire is good. But it's that. So it's like, okay, do I bail sooner so I can get my steps into the industry? Because like that's my best opportunity, right? I don't have a college degree, so. Like I have to use the connections I've made showing that I'm a competent, hardworking person to get me, positions that I need. Or it's the other direction, which is like I have to pump up my social media and Twitch numbers. So therefore my position as an esports commentator is more secure farther down the line. Those are two kind of competing, and also like they're competing ideas, and like which one I put more time into, and like which one do I go all in on the esports stream? Do I go all in on just like industry? Like which one do I go? But they also kind of work together, right? Like the more popular I am as a streamer, et cetera, makes me more valuable to Twitch, to ESL, to all these other things. And it's just like, I've been thinking about that. Like it's always in the back of my head, but now it's more in the front part of my brain. And so I've just been focusing more on trying to grow things.
I think the fact that you have these conversations with yourself is probably the most valuable thing, because it's not just something that like you're pushing off or like you're not really worrying about it. I'm generally not a fan of the idea that like, oh, everything will just work itself out. Like I think that you kind of have to actively take steps in a direction that you want to in order to like get to a place. And if your place is like, you know, being a secure human adult in 20 years that probably owns a house and is like relatively comfortable and happy.
Yeah.
Which is probably roughly the goal, right? Like you have to like think about how to get there and put plans in place. And, you know, kudos to anyone who gets by with like a rough plan or is able to just like, you know, kind of wing it and make it work out. I think that's incredibly stressful. I think it's incredibly stressful to not know like, hey, what is 2 years out, 5 years out? Is there something, you know, if I do stop commentating now and then start doing a different job right now, is that going to be better for 10-year me? You know? Yeah. If I get out of TV or esports now and then move into finance, is that going to be better for me in 20 years? A really weird example that would never happen, right? Like, you know, I think the conversation is the most important part, and that's why, you know, I think I hear people have similar kind of I guess crises that you're kind of, you know, floating in your head, but I think that I'm way more confident in your ability to resolve it or like have a path than other people who I talk to with the same problems, because like it seems like you kind of are a level of self-aware that's important. And I don't know who the fuck I am to say that. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with anything.
No,
I
appreciate that. Okay, so let me counter that though, because the part of the concern comes from the fact that this is not a conversation I have started having in the last 6 months. This is a conversation I had when I left Join Dota. You know, at that time when I left Join Dota, I started exploring my options, and I said I want to be able to do more in the industry. And so I talked to ESL, because ESL at the time had that whole thing where they had talent in their roster that were, you know, ESL employees, but they also, because they worked for ESL, have opportunities to be able to dabble their hands into other things, right? And I talked to them, and they were talking about like I was supposed to be hired as a junior producer underneath somebody else and like really learning. And I had an interview with that person, and one of the things they said was like, okay, we can do this, but at the time they were kind of phasing out that whole talent thing that was kind of going on, and eventually a bunch of people went freelance. And he was like, yeah, you can still do Dota events, but like 2 years down the line, we wouldn't want you to be doing that. We would want you full time focusing on being a producer. And I was like, fuck, 2 years? I was like, that fast? I was like, oh no. and I made the call then. I was like, I can't do it, right? And so effectively what I did was delay the decision that I'm now faced with 4 years down. Like now I'm still faced with that same decision. And I'm still going to delay it because Dota 2 esports is like still in a good place. And like, I'm very happy doing it and it's financially fulfilling. But at some point in time, that balance is going to get awkward. And
either
while I always want to keep, yeah, it's like at some point in time, like I'll always keep doing this. I'll always be a Dota 2 commentator. I won't stop doing that. But at some point, it's got to become my part-time job, and I have something else that is my full-time job, whatever that is. You know, like I don't know how much longer Dota 2 full-time keeps going. I think it's probably another 2-3 years, but you know, that squeeze starts becoming weird when it's like your salary starts going down, your yearly salary starts going down. And so your plans of like you said, happy functioning human being in 20 years time, you know, like that vision becomes weird when you start making less money than you did the previous year, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I do see a world where you could, you know, function beyond Dota as like some kind of like a personality trainer or I feel like there's you have like the presence and the chops to be able to make something like that work too. So I mean I assume from an outsider perspective that you could have a lot of options open. It's just like what's gonna, you know, make that end goal better, make you happy, which I guess is the chronic problem that we're all asking, right? Like what's going to make us happy, that I think that our generation just super struggles with.
Yeah. because happiness is such a there's so many things because there's delayed happiness, you know. There's the work you put in now to be happy later, and then there's the instant gratification. Instant gratification is me casting Dota 2 for the next 10 years, you know, and like doing nothing else. That's all I do. And I'll be fucking happy in the moment all the time. But then I hit year 15 and I'm like, oh fuck. Where am I?
Then
What's my what do I go from here?
Is that I think about this sometimes. Is it going to be weird in 10 years when all of the people who are talking about video games professionally are 40?
I don't think so.
Is it a young man's game? Because it's not that way, again, if you're going to talk about traditional sports. Most of those people are old.
No.
Right? But they've also been around for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that those sports stay. Like, so I don't think it's weird. If I'm 40 and I'm casting Dota 2, not weird at all. If I'm 40 and I'm casting Fortnite 3, probably weird. If I'm 40 and I'm hosting Fortnite 3, like Red Eye, not as weird. Commentating is like, it's weird because it's like, analyst is young man's game. I think play-by-play commentator is like middle-aged. And host is like, you know, you could be an older host. I know Red Eye worried about that all the time. He always worried that like the young audience would not, they would not, like as he got older and looked older, they would be turned off by the fact that like, why is my father hosting this event? You know, like, why is my grandfather hosting this event? Like he always worried that like the audience would start reacting that way at some point in time. But I feel like host is a position that commands a certain amount of gravitas that it's okay to be older. You know, I think hosts, you have a longevity there.
I think it's a legitimate fear. I've thought that on
yes,
Red Eye's behalf before. You know, so if I'm thinking that as an audience member, I can only imagine what kind of turmoil that someone, you know, in his position would go through, being like, oh man, am I gonna get kicked out for Johnny Fortnite? So.
Yeah, no, I think that is a legitimate concern, but I think it's more of a legitimate concern for his position, right? Which was that he was much older than most of his compatriots. But like as esports group, like I'm in a position where esports will grow old with me, so I think I'll still be okay in that regard. But whether or not I can hack it in other games, whether or not I can be a good enough top tier host or anything like that, those are all unresolved questions. So
I assume it's probably a little bit harder for you, passion way more in Dota 2. I think the people who transition more to more are people who are like, you know, oh, I like Counter-Strike and I also like Valorant and Dota's cool and like I guess I like Overwatch now because they're paying me a lot of money, right? Whereas I don't think that's really your situation. So
no, I mean, I had the opportunity to check out Overwatch and like, you know, and see if I wanted to work there as talent. And I didn't pull that trigger because it didn't appeal to me. I checked out Valorant. I fucking checked out real quick on Valorant because I was like, if I'm going to cast this, I would just cast CSGO. I would just cast the superior version of this game. Like I'm watching both of them. I'm just like, I enjoy watching CSGO a lot more. Which is surprising because I actually watched a lot of Overwatch streaming perspective. Once Overwatch League really started kicking in and stuff, like I found the game a lot less interesting to watch. But it was a great streamer game, in my opinion. I really enjoyed watching it from that perspective. But yeah, Valorant was just like, nope. So I'm still waiting for like something to catch me, something for me to like, okay, I can stick my toes into this other game, you know? And it's just, nothing's hitting me, and I'm wondering if there ever is going to be something.
I wonder if once I think it's an inevitability that Dota will kind of like hit a downward slope and start like declining in a true sense and not like in a meme sense. Some people can probably argue legitimately that we're already there for one reason or another. But I think that, you know, it's an inevitability in life cycle of any game that it will go down, right? I wonder if your openness to other titles that really grasp you will increase as Dota decreases, or because like you know that Dota is still here, so there's nothing like forcing you to like really like Valorant or try it when you don't have to, right? So maybe that's
and same goes with the people whose itch is scratched by Dota 2 and League of Legends, right? The MOBA franchise, which is strategy focused team games. right? Like that itch will be scratched at some point in time with some other genre, some other game. This genre will not like truly die until something comes out and kills it. Like that's what I firmly believe.
And I think that it'll never truly.
That will be the true test, right?
I think it'll never truly die. Like people say StarCraft's dead, but StarCraft is never truly going to be dead. There's always going to be a core contingency of, X amount of people who are fanatical about it. It's going to be the same for Dota and for League of Legends probably for like the rest of foreseeable history, right? But just like how a lot of StarCraft people switched over to Dota, I'm sure a lot of Dota people will probably have an out somewhere else eventually. And I think that we're just living in the abyss because we don't know what that's going to be. And that was the case for me. Yeah. I was a StarCraft person before I ever played a game of Dota.
Mm-hmm. So. No, I think I've said this before, but I look at the StarCraft scene a lot to tell me what my future is. It's my magic 8 ball, I ask questions. I'm like, what'll my life be in like 5 years? And I shake that magic 8 ball, and then I turn on a StarCraft 2 scene, like some tournament that's going on in StarCraft 2. I'm like, what will my life be like in 5 years? And I look at that, and I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that. Like, that's fine. I don't,
Pretty funny. I feel we've probably been going for a hot minute. I can't see a timer. We should probably wind this down. I think that this is like a weird birthday /therapy /career workshop, which was actually super interesting. I'm genuinely interested if like there's other stuff that we could have talked about that maybe we could talk about later. Like Valve had a blog post that was interesting. I see you set up the lighthouses behind you, so you might have started playing around with the Vive, which I'm curious about. Excuse me, the Index, because we're fancy. But I might have to save that for next time, because I think that was just a good nugget. I'm interested if people will resonate. That's the word I wanted, not resonate. Yeah. I wonder if people will resonate with any of our mild career / quarter life crisis / what's going on situation.
Hopefully, I can like quick TLDR of the Valve blog. We'll talk about this more next year, but like honestly, I didn't even read most of it. Not that interested.
Dude, me too. I opened it up and I kept the tab open for like hours before I read it because I'm just like, this is dense and like not in a good way.
Yeah, I'm like, Hero in November, so like, am I gonna get a patch in November too? Like, are we changing up Dota or not? Like, I don't fucking know, but all I know is I have to wait more.
Where's the DPC stuff?
Honestly, the blog post was like, hey, we're gonna do things. No, not yet, but we're working on it. The Slack's like, we're working on it, And so it was just, I was kind of like, all right, well, I'm glad they're working on it. I'm glad they told me they're working on it, but it's like, it's not much for me to really break down and, analyze and get excited about.
Yeah, amen. But Gabe is gonna move the whole company to New Zealand now, right? So everything's gonna be fine.
True. Oh God, that means I need to move to New Zealand to be close to Valve.
That might be cool. Maybe not.
Yeah, except nobody will let us in, Joey. We're Americans. We're filthy, diseased Americans.
Don't get me started. Man. Shit, dude. Well, happy birthday. I look forward to talking to you when I'm 30 and I'm like, oh no, this is horrible, right? Then you can tell me, no, it's actually okay. So that's a conversation.
Hey, they say 30s is supposed to be like the best years of your life. 30s and 40s, that's what they say. So,
well, here you
go.
I'm
looking forward to it.
I guess you're on an upswing. I think you're much more jovial than I am. I'm still struggling with the whole age thing. So it's like, what? Older? Number bad. Child, please. In the sense that I want to be one, not have one. For the record, let the record.
I knew that.
All right, dude. Fuck. Happy birthday. Have a good week. Thanks, everybody. If you are new to Side Pull, that was an episode, and you should follow us on your favorite podcast player because we exist there. You're probably listening there right now. So just click the button. It helps us. If you're on Apple, leave a 5-star review. That also helps us. If you want to watch the video version, last week we were in the same room, and no one got COVID. I got a lot of allergies from the cat, though. And there's a video for like half of it, which is up on YouTube. You can do that. So, watch on YouTube, listen to your podcast player, do the review, tweet us nice things, ask us questions. We're here to provide a service for people with chronic boredom or people who want to listen to whatever this is. And if you know what that is,
also,
tell me.
Cross promotion. I did a second episode of the podcast with me and Blitz. Not to directly compare the two of you, Joey, or anything, but I also do a podcast with Blitz and nobody knows about it because it's on the second episode. And that's now on Spotify too, so you could check that out.
You should listen to that. I'll put a link in the description so you can listen to that. You know that I've had the first episode open in a tab since you shared it with me on SoundCloud and I haven't listened yet. I've had a tab open. I think
piece of shit, Joey.
It's probably been 2 months, right? I've had a tab open for I shit you not 2 months, and I'm like, I'm gonna listen to this, and I haven't. So I also need to take the advice, which all of you should take, and go listen to Cap and Blitz wax more poetically about anything that I could ever say. So do that, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.